Well, welcome back to another episode of Unexpected Patterns. My name is Rita Stevens and I am your host. Today, I want to talk to you about something that may be a little bit sticky, but I want you to lean in because I think that if you really grasp the concept, it can change your life. Let me ask you something personal. Is it possible that the very words that you speak every day are sabotaging the destiny that God has designed for you? Not your enemies, not circumstances, and not even your past, but your mouth. You see, this episode is inspired by my book, Unexpected Patterns of Purpose, where I talk about how purpose often unfolds through detours, delays, and disruptions. But here's the part we don't talk about enough. Many people abort their future not because God failed, but because their words disagreed with heaven. So let's talk about this first section here. Proverbs 18 and 21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit." Notice it's not talking about your opinions are powerful. It's talking about your words. Your words are carriers. They transport belief, fear, faith, and even expectation. And many of us are casually speaking things like, "I'll never get out of this. This is just the way my life is. Nothing ever works for me. I guess this is what I'm supposed to have." But I want you to hear me clearly. Every time you speak hopelessness, you're feeding something. Either you are feeding your faith or fear. Now, in my book, Unexpected Patterns of Purpose, I write about how patterns repeat when your perspectives stay the same. And language is often the loudest evidence of your perspective. Let me give you some biblical truth where we talk about delayed destiny. We're going to talk about Numbers chapter 13. You see, God had promised the Israelites land. He had already said yes, and Moses had asked the spies to go out and go look at the land and then come back and tell them what they saw. Well, when the spies returned, they talked about how the land was full of milk and honey and how beautiful it was and how the people were living. But as soon as Caleb said, "Let's go into that land," their response changed. They started talking about how big the people were and how they couldn't do it, and they even called themselves grasshoppers. Now, see, it was the same land, it was the same facts, but different words. And what happened? In Numbers chapter 14, God says, "I will do to you the very thing I heard you say." Think about that. That should really sober us up and have our ears to attention. They didn't die in that land because it was impossible. They didn't die because their words were just misaligned with God's promise. It was about their words and how they continued to speak things that were not aligned with God's promise. Let me say this gently but truthfully. Some of us are praying for doors for God to open, and He's already opened those doors. But it is our language that keeps us wandering on the outside, just like those Israelites. They were wandering in the wilderness, and that's how we are, based on our words. You see, we have to be real intentional with our words. Now, I'm sure some of you are saying, "Well, what about when something bad happens to me? What am I supposed to say? Am I not supposed to feel it?" And the answer is no. It's about, what do you say when you are in those places? You see, God often hides purpose inside the pain, the delay, and sometimes those disruptions in our life. But if you keep calling it a process of failure, you will miss the pattern. Joseph didn't say, when his father had passed and when his brothers had cast him into a pit to be sold off into slavery, I'm abandoned, I'm forgotten, this is pointless. Instead, when that moment came, he said to his brothers, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. You see, he didn't rename that pit as his identity. He treated it as a temporary place. So ask yourself, are you speaking about your season that you're in, or are you sentencing yourself to that season? Are you describing where you are right now? Are you already deciding where you will stay? Jesus is a great example, and he told us and talked to us about the power of our words and using that authority. So let's talk about it. He modeled it perfectly. In Mark 11:23, he says, whoever says to this mountain, be removed and cast it into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, he will have whatever he says. I want you to notice something about that. He didn't say, think about the mountain. He didn't say, pray about the mountain, even though there are things, all things we should pray about. He said, say. Your mouth is not just an expression. It's about authority. And many believers are saved, that we're gifted, we're anointed, and we are still speaking defeat over our future. So let's talk about some practical ways that you literally can change your language and change your life. Ask yourself some questions. Take a pause, just as I did. Take a pause and ask yourself some questions. Audit your words and ask yourself, do my words agree with God, or do they agree with my emotions? You see, in Psalms 34:1, it says, I will bless the Lord at all times. So are you agreeing with God? Or are you agreeing with your emotions? Ask yourself, am I naming my pain without prophesying my future? Doesn't mean pain is not real. It is real. But permanently being there is optional. You don't have to permanently be there. Then the third question I want you to ask yourself is, would I want to live in the world that my words are actually creating? And try this daily. Try it to reframe the way that you are thinking. So instead of saying things like, this is breaking me, reshape that sentence in, this is building something I can't see yet. Instead of saying, I'm stuck, you can say, I'm being repositioned. Instead of saying, man, I missed the mark, then say that God redeems the time. You see, I want to leave you with some truths. Your destiny doesn't respond to intention. It responds to your words aligning. And one of the fastest ways to do it, to align with your purpose, is to bring your language under submission. So if your words have been killing your hope, today can be the day of resurrection, because unexpected patterns don't cancel your purpose, they confirm your purpose. But if you have to stop speaking death over what God has already planned to use. So until next time, I want you to remember that your purpose and in your timing, it all matters. And if this episode has spoke to you, share it with someone who feels stuck in a season that they're calling failure. Make sure that you go out and grab a copy of the book. It's called Unexpected Patterns of Purpose. And revisit those chapters where I talk about perspective and your voice. And at the end of this week, I want you to, or by the end of this week, I want you to be listening to yourself and reevaluate and make sure that your words are aligning with the future and the purpose that God has for you. Until next time.